Guys, thank you so much. I know some of you actually had to move appointments to make this time slot happen. So thank you for making that work just to kind of serve the greater community and spend a few minutes together. Welcome.
Thank
Of course.
All right. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we're going to kick off. David Villa, we're going to kick off with you just because I don't think we've ever actually had an in-person conversation. Maybe we have, maybe not. Obviously, a very familiar face in the auto industry, started Auto Dealer Live. David, there are a lot of people that trust your opinion on things and that look to you in times when they need encouragement and advice. What is the encouragement and advice that you've been handing out more than any other in these days?
Well, first of all, Paul, thank you for having me on, man. I'm honored to come and join these gentlemen and yourself and your audience. I think first of all, if anybody says that they can relate to what's going on, I'm pretty sure that would be an incorrect statement. This is uncharted for everyone, and so I've been in the auto industry. Brian and I were chatting in the green room. We've been through 9/11. We've gone through 2008, but this is different, and it's very interesting. So I think the one thing that I've been really, I'm a man of faith, and so of course that stands at the forefront of anything that I do, and that's really where my anchor is. Without that, I'm not sure I would be making it through this. But I can tell you that I think if we just not react as much and slow down, and listen, this is a great thing that you're doing, because I think there's a lot of wisdom that could come out of slowing down, listening, and the Bible says, there's wisdom in counsel. And so I don't know, what better counsel than, the individuals that you have on today. So I would say that, listen, slow down a little bit. Don't react before you think or before you counsel. And I think that might be a good starting point.
Interesting. That's kind of the advice that 99% of, investment bankers are saying right now too. Slow down, stop. You're going to do something that you're going to regret. So appreciate that. We're going to move right across the screen as it's lined up for me. Mr. Kain, welcome to the program. And can you tell us what the advice you're giving out more than other advice? Like, what are the common conversations that you're having?
I think, to follow a lot with what David was saying, there's going to be an opportunity here for us to reacclimate ourselves to why we got into business in the first place. So many of the relationships that we have in automotive came from, I got involved as a kid, my family was in the business, or I was brought into it because of a friend, and I'm in it now. But I think now it's time for us to reacquaint ourselves with what we love about the business, the people that we know, and the opportunities that it presents for us to really lead our teams forward, as opposed to just focusing on the here and now. And we got to move inventory, we got to reduce costs, we've got to do this, that, and the other thing. But basically, to look around you and appreciate who the people are that are in the fight with us, and to recognize the contribution that you can give and they are giving to you. And oftentimes what we see is, that's a guy that can sell cars, they're a good talker, or that guy can turn a wrench. And we forget these are human beings that go home to families, and they really understand what fear is. And, I thought it was great to have Nicole on earlier. So I want to really embrace the human aspects of this and to recognize why we come to work.
Very good. Thank you for that insight. Mr. Pasch, a lot of dealers listen to what you have to say on a regular basis. What are you saying to them now on a regular basis?
Well, aside from the tremendously difficult time for dealer principals and general managers who have to lay people off, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. My coaching is the only way you're going to be successful through this is to sell your way out of it. Meaning you have to start planning now, whether you think it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. This is the perfect time to retool. For some dealers, that's embracing digital retailing. For some dealers, it's being more flexible in how they communicate with customers. For others, it's a wake-up call that their advertising needs to shift, especially being sensitive to all the people who've been laid off. It takes time to develop a new marketing message, to pivot. So I'm encouraging dealers, can they clear some time to imagine what a 4 to 6 weeks planning event could really yield. We know that the OEMs are going to sweeten the deal. We know that the payroll assistance is going to help small businesses. We know that consumers are going to have money. They have their tax returns money. And so what I'm trying to help dealers realize that for the first time in history of modern automotive sales, the just get them in phrase doesn't work. And since most dealers have been profitable on the just get them in mentality,
Right.
they have to pivot now. So my coaching is, how do we use these 4 to 6 weeks to come out stronger with a clearer message? We're a more compassionate, faster, easier way to buy a car.
You know, I think that what you just said is, Brian, is it really hasn't come up much. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't, but I think it's indicative of the fact that we are so in the moment right now, not just as an industry, but as people, you know, and like people have their families at home, the kids aren't in school, right? Like thinking of a future time, like, let me think strategically. No, like it probably starts with like, I can't wait until the kids are back where they go and I can go where I go and all these interactions. But what you just said is something that hasn't come up, is that in 4 to 6 weeks from now, it's going to look unbelievably different than it does right now, because 3 weeks ago, we can all remember how it looked and it was pretty normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 weeks has led us to this point. And in 4 to 6 weeks from now, it's easy to forget, like, we're going to get there and everyone's seen the curve, and like, it's not up and then indefinite, right? It's going to be up and down. And so I think that's really insightful to just be a voice that says, hey, in 4 to 6 weeks now, I've heard it referred to as a snapback plan, a comeback plan, and the opportunity to retool and be ready for that, I think is a good thing to pay attention in the midst of being in the moment. David Kain, what are some of the things that you're doing to help dealers prepare for that? Or is that conversation coming up right now? Or is it more like a triage, like, hey, let's just stop the bleeding and get you stable? What are you seeing? What do you think?
Yeah, so it's twofold. What we've done, Paul, is we created what we call a crisis mitigation guide. And that's a here and now, this is what's going on. These are the things you need to prepare for. And that's available for dealers to download. And at the same point, part of that guidance is a personal development program for each of the salespeople to go through. And if you imagine, I started selling cars in 1982 at our family's dealership. And when you think in terms of some of the lessons I learned from my early managers, it was build relationships with your customers. And going back to what Brian was saying, the get them in now process. We developed recently a client intake sheet, which it really plays off the fact that we believe CRM stands for not customer relationship management, but the customer remembers me. So if you can rewrite CRM as customer remembers me, and we put the notes in there in such a way to where the customer, we know they are buying a car for their family, they have this kind of a commute, they have a dog, they have children, they have this need or that need, they're on social media, and then we can start to develop that, and more than just try to inundate them with here's what's going on now. I go back to my early lease training where Eustace Wolfington taught us the point of sell is the point of resell. But everything in between, as salespeople, we tend to vacate and not follow up. So what we're asking, much like what Brian was talking about on the marketing side, is on the personal business development side, get the salespeople to re-engage with their clients on a more personal basis, as opposed to just trying to sell.
Very good. Wow. Customer remembers me. I'm never, ever going to forget that. Never going to forget it. Mr. Villa, so what do you think on that play, like on the line of questioning, or you can introduce a new thought if you want, but what's your thought?
Yeah, kind of to piggyback on what Brian and David both said, I think, and kind of to go back a little further to what you asked, I think that communication is really big as well, and tying in with marketing. So let me kind of explain. Every dealer, obviously, in every state is not the same, but yet because of the media and the cycle, I think that every person that's touched everywhere is concerned. and there's uncertainty. So I think the leaders have to communicate. There has to be the ability for, leadership, right? Let's break that down. You're the leader of the ship. And so we've communicated, every division. I've communicated with my leaders. They've communicated with their teams. And I think dealers need to make sure that they are communicating that message. And put a plan together, speak it, communicate it, bring in some collaboration. But with regards to, because here's my opinion on, and we're seeing this now with marketing, and I agree with Brian 100%, this typical marketing. And dealers necessarily aren't marketers. There are some that are, some that aren't, but they all have marketing budgets, right? They've just, in some cases, wasted distribution, thrown money out frivolously. This is not the time to do that. So
I would say majority of cases.
Absolutely. So I think that one of the things that if you get the message right, there are customers now that know this or blow over, and that the 0% financing that's out for 84 months, the deferred payments, these are big deals. And, for somebody who's in this for the long game, that's going to mean some savings in their finances. So I think the message has to be communicated the right way, because if it is, there's buyers out there and they're not going to get offended. They're not going to say, how dare you? And if it's communicated the right way. And I think that they, that's probably though a big if. It has to be communicated properly.
To tag off of that, the next Dealer Pulse panel is going to be Kevin Fry and Matt Lasher, two of the savviest marketers in the automotive industry, in my opinion. But what you said, like when we come out of this, so we have 3 strategic counselors in the room right now with the 3 of you, and you're trying to position dealers to be in the best place in 4 to 6 weeks from now and then moving forward. And really that's an element of thinking like, what weapon does everybody have? And what can I bring to the fight that nobody else has or fewer people have, right? Everybody's going to have the pricing weapon, right? Everyone that the manufacturers are all going to release a mechanism to extend financing, make it attractive. Every dealer can price their inventory every day and change it every day. So that's the weapon everyone's going to have. So the, customer remembers me, the positioning yourself with messaging and community involvement, to your point, David, to like getting things out now that are going to actually connect with someone and make them want to visit you versus the other person that has the same car for the same price. So I liked the transition of that, obviously, of a marketer at heart, that it's like, hey, we have an opportunity to connect with people, so they remember you. Matt Lasher is with the West Her Auto Group, and he's coming on next. And the dealer principal, Scott Beeler, says something. He has Scottisms, as they call them. And he says, customers will never remember what you had to do. They'll never remember that you worked hard to find them the car that they wanted. That's your job. They'll never remember that you got their financing approved. That's their job. But they will remember that you bought their son a $10 Yankees hat because he said he was a Yankees fan. You didn't have to do that. They'll remember that. Just kind of go off on that marketing play. So, okay, we got a couple questions that I want to ask. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to ask you and give you each a chance to address this. So the one at the top of the pile right now is a very good one. What advice do you have for those who lost their positions within the last few weeks at dealerships? What do you have advice for those people to stay connected to the industry and continue to grow? David, why don't you answer first? David, go.
So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
he was
David.
on the screen.
So very, very quickly. First of all, that's happening a lot. I'm getting a lot of messages with individuals asking, advice on that already. Here's the thing I'd ask myself, and I know this industry, we all love it. You need to do something obviously in the meantime. And I think that if you're a salesperson, Brian said you can always sell your way out of this. I had a few salespeople reach out to stay connected. They're even, offering marketing and supplemental products from an independent or freelance standpoint to stay connected. It's a very tough time because, or maybe find a dealership, because one thing I'll say about it, there are dealers that could possibly be next to one another or down the street. One of them could be shrinking back, in fear or in apprehension. The other could be looking at it as an opportunity. Find the dealer in your market that's looking at it as opportunity and join that team, because that dealer will make some headway right now. So that's my advice.
Very good. David Kain, what advice do you have for people that are in the dealership environment, may be laid off? How do they stay connected to what's going on?
Yes. So one of the tools that we're offering for individuals that are laid off or on furlough is we're giving access to our Kain University for free so that they can hone their skills. And anyone who goes through that process, we will then help them get interviews and get connected back into a dealership. And I say that selfishly because the truth is, our success really plays into the quality of the individuals that are at the dealerships. And if we can do a good job of reacquainting them with some of the digital retailing concepts, some of the communication concepts, and things that will really make them powerful contributors to the success of a dealership going into the future, that's what we want to do. And I think really it comes down to sharpen the saw and what Stephen Covey taught us a long time ago. And ultimately, my son at Christmas asked for this masterclass subscription. He's a aerospace engineering grad, got his first job. Thank goodness I'm not having to take care of him during this crisis. So fortunately, it's one of those things to where he's a learner. And I think we've got to keep sharpening our saw and making our brains acquainted with this. And going back to what Nicole said, the back of our brain is really worried about all this, but we got to keep the brain in the front really sharp and focused.
Very great. Thank you very much for that. And we'll make sure we link up to the resources too after the event and send them out via the email. So we'll connect with you. Mr. Pasch, you get the last word.
Wow. Okay. So 2 groups of people. If you're marketing professionals within the dealership, this is the perfect time to upgrade all your Google certifications, your Facebook Blueprint certifications. This is the perfect time to do that. Those courses are free. Also, this is the perfect time to do some of the homework on your dealership's websites, even if you're furloughed. If you think you're getting back, it would be so impressive for you to come back to work with a whole blueprint and say, boss, while I was furloughed, I put a blueprint together of what we need to do next. If I was a salesperson, I would do the same thing. If you feel that you're going to be working at that dealership, I would volunteer. I would stay in the game. I love what David was saying. I'd be calling every one of my customers. I'd keep my head in the game, let them know, hey, I'm local, you're local, we're going through this together. I just want to let you know that we're thinking of you. I would try to get my employees' heads not to be thinking of where they are now, but in the future. So maybe you distribute your customer lists and get your employees involved, sharpening the skills. I love David's offer to go into Kain University, but I think it's very important that we stay positive. I think of a story in the Old Testament where Elisha's assistant was worried about being surrounded by the army, and Elisha looked up to God and saw God's protection, and his servant was just looking at the ground level at the other warriors. I think we need to stay positive, focused, leverage our faith, know that we'll get through this and be productive. If we're just sitting around waiting, it will not be a productive time for everyone in our industry.
Very great. And just to mention a couple other resources, David Villa has a weekly live show podcast, Auto Dealer Live. Brian Pasch also has a podcast, Pasch On Podcast. David told us about his free resources. I have a podcast. People have resources. There's no excuse to not stay connected. So for whoever answered that question, you have it all at your fingertips. You have it all on your phone. It's all about your decision to stay connected. I'll help you. These gentlemen will help you. Gentlemen, we've made it through this without a supernova of intelligence happening. It's great to be connected. The live feed didn't drop off because of the surge coming through the fiber optic line. Thank you. It was so good to have your insight. Look forward to connecting with you more in the future. And if you're watching, please check out these gentlemen. They are servants, they are intelligent, and they will help you. So thanks, guys. Be well. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye.